Models in production during the Cranes etc. visit to China include two new Manitowoc crawler cranes. These are being produced by Towsley's and engineered by Weiss Brothers.
ConExpo 2014. Manitowoc comes out with the MLC brand of models. The MLC 165, the MLC 300, and the MLC 650. Based on the new release of these MLCs, Manitowoc wanted to be seen again in the model world. It's been 7 years since a crane has been released in a model form from Manitowoc, and it was time for Manitowoc to start appearing in the market for a model. So the timeline here, in Bauma 2016, we saw the two tooling models that were on display in the crane section for Manitowoc. And from there, roughly 8 months ago, we've gone to tooling, prototype, and now as you can see, the finished product. We're on the production line right now, literally.
So the models are on the production line now, but how has the development of the model been progressed?
Once we got the approval, we started the data collection, which is collecting, if possible, 3D drawings. In this case, it was the two-dimensional drawings. Taking photographs, which is one of my favorite parts, going out into the sub-zero temperatures of Wisconsin and taking pictures in the yard. But crawling over the machine, that is probably the best part. Gathering that information for the engineers here in China to begin building the 3D models, and each piece is built. It's not just something that they can take a file that exists, put it into their model making machine, and it pops out a part. There's a lot that goes into making one part, and that's something that I completely lost. However, the part that I know is keeping the detail level where it needs to be, the functionality of it, the ease in assembly, the packaging.
So with the models in production, let's take a look around the factory and see what's happening. And the parts have all arrived from another factory where they've been cast. But straight from casting they have rough edges and loose flakes. And here is one way that the cleaning process can be started. The raw castings are placed in a vibrating machine together with some stones to clean them up. For removing rough edges, they're given a clean with a grinding wheel. Where in the boom section there are holes for the connections or for fixing parts, then they are cleaned out with a drill. Once the castings are finished and clean, they can be put on racks ready for painting. And in this factory the technique is tried and trusted and fairly simple. The parts are being hand sprayed and they get rotated several times to ensure an even coverage of the paint. With the painting done, the rack is taken off and put into rack holders for the drying process. Other parts get painted in a different way, and here we see Manitowoc signboards being painted by tampo printing. This applies two colours, red and black, onto the white signboards, and each part has to go through this process. Out onto the assembly line and the painted parts can be fixed together, and here we can see parts being attached to the car bodies, and over at another workstation we see thread being wound onto drums. So what does Milo do on his visits to China?
I visit China roughly 4 times a year, and my main purpose is to maintain a relationship. The Chinese are very relational, and we build trust with each other. The other end of that also is the efficiency and timing of projects. The more I'm here, the more influence I have over the project, and the more of me can be in that project.
And this is one of the first results of the work done. This is the MLC 650. It's an early production sample, and the first thing that's impressive is the size of the model. But that's not the only thing that's impressive about these two new Manitowoc cranes.
Some facts that really blow me away are, over the last month and a half, The factory here has produced 25,000 boom sections, and that covers both cranes. This 650 has over 3,500 parts, and that's screws, nuts, bolts, pins, track shoes. But those numbers are pretty amazing.
So while we've got a chance, let's have a look at the pre-production model, and it appears to have the high quality of the earlier TWH Manitowoc cranes. There are walkways and lifting points on the boom sections, and the pendants are looking good with all of the connections bolted. It's also nice to see that the bolted connections allow an effective equalizer to be formed, so the pendants should have a roughly equal tension. The winch drums are also looking good because they appear to have a proper braking system. A feature of the real crane is the moving counterweight, and that looks to be fully implemented on the model. So it looks like these Manitowoc cranes are going to be high quality, and if you want one you can order them from Vice Brothers directly, and the link to their website is in the video description.